Alzheimer's. The disease Alzheimer's dangled her between reality and illusion, an impostor who frequently caused her world to collide while chiseling away at her life. It was 6:30 a.m. when I entered her room. There she was seated, with her legs crossed by the side of her bed. It was near the end of my shift, as I made rounds to ensure the patient's well-being was being met. On entering her room, I was struck by Mrs. Pamela Fitzroy's beautiful, flawless skin, which glowed in the dimness of the early morning light streaming through her window, as the sunlight bounced off her snow-white hair. Mrs. Fitzroy's hair falls loosely to her shoulders, framing her face, accentuating the oval shape of her intense blue eyes. Her radiating beauty, petite frame, and youthful features reveal a healthy lifestyle, accentuated by her 5'3" stature. Calling out softly, so as not to startle her, I said, "Hi, Mrs. Fitzroy. Good morning. It's Madge." She observed me, trying to make sense of what was being said to her. It pulled at my heart. I had only half an hour left on the clock, but time wasn't something she had much of. However, I did. Moving my chair into her space, I sat next to her, studying her blank stare. Physically, she was present in that moment. However, Alzheimer's was swiftly erasing the life she knew and chiseling away at her like a dutiful sculptor, shifting the axis of her life off balance, dangling her between reality and illusion, hurrying her to a fateful demise. Meeting my gaze seconds later with uncertainty, she answered yes, as her entire body shook uncontrollably. Her laser stare was penetrating yet hollow as she struggled to formulate her thoughts, putting them into words. Mrs. Fitzroy's fixated gaze was spellbinding, merely electrifying. It felt as if I was being pulled into an emotional vortex, a tunnel that goes deep into the soul. At that moment, I no longer saw her, but I saw myself through her. Trembling as I was, I tried regaining composure, but the moment was hers, not mine, and I became lost in it. Now the roles of the patient and caregiver are entirely erased.
Partitions were, but are no longer two different worlds that had merged, hers and mine. That finite thread woven in the birth of our humanity became fused. I tried keeping my emotions in check, telling myself not to cry, but my feelings were raw. The realization of what had just occurred melted me inside. Although I tried holding it together with all the strength I could muster, I couldn't, and it was palpitating. It was as if our spirits had merged, and I no longer saw Mrs. Fitzroy, but saw myself become her. This woman's life was seeping away through the throes of her circumstances, and like sand in an hourglass, quickly escaping through the narrow corridor of time. Alzheimer's ravaging effects took hold of the very fiber of her being. Yet, briefly pausing between the harsh realities of her condition and refusing to accept the finality of what this illness brings, hope springs anew. Acknowledgement of Mrs. Fitzroy's truth, which for seconds had become mine, a sense of hope was born through seeing myself in her. Looking at her compassionately upon regaining some sense of control, I inquired, thoughtful, gently, "Mrs. Fitzroy, can I get you anything before I go?" She looked baffled, processing what was asked of her, again pausing a while before answering with her usual uncertainty. Confused, hesitantly, "No," patiently. "Can I get you anything?" I repeated. Her eyes widened as she formulated another response. Again her body shook involuntarily and her lips quivered, but she became inaudible. Warmly, kindly, "Mrs. Fitzroy, how about a cup of hot chocolate?" She hesitated, then responded with a smile, hopeful, softly. "Yes?" Playful, energetic. "Good, I will be right back. Don't go anywhere," I teased, trying to lighten the moment, returning a few minutes later with the hot chocolate.
"Here, it's hot!"
She takes the cup gingerly from my hand. "Thank you! You're kind," Mrs. Fitzroy mumbled. Coherency was few and far between, and reality became a rarity. "You're most welcome, ma'am." Suddenly feeling exhausted, I was through with exchanging pleasantries. But I couldn't leave her, not just yet. I remained seated next to her bed, quietly, drinking the extra cup of hot beverage I'd brought. The air was filled with anticipation, as if waiting for someone or something in the echoing silence. It was awkward, but I couldn't leave her. Not yet. I would occasionally glance across at the clock on the wall, which was merely a diversion. Once more, her gaze had become a laser beam. As she zoned in on me, she waited, but my mind reeled with many scenarios. What was I to say? What could I say to soften the terrible blow life dealt her? What was I to say? The nature of her illness had placed her in an erratic state of forgetfulness mingled with confusion. There were moments of coherence, however they were as fleeting as the seconds on the clock on her wall. Her slurping now sounded as loud as tennis balls bouncing against a wall. I was aware of the deafening silence that permeated the air due to the lack of communication. I was unable to do anything other than merely sit. It was crippling and overwhelming. As if going through some emotional whiplash, my mood became erratic. Being aware that she was expecting more from me than just looking at her, I tried to keep my voice measured as I asked, "Are you sure there isn't something else I could get or do for you, Mrs. Fitzroy? Shortly I will be leaving for home. We're now changing shifts, and it will be a while before someone comes to you if it's not an emergency. Therefore, if there's anything you need, please let me know now." In response, she shook her head as she handed me her empty cup.
"I cannot linger any longer. I must complete my shift." Becoming drawn to her compelled me to spend time with her despite constraints. Words weren't enough to validate or quantify the epiphany experienced, one which forever changed me. This experience sparked an awareness of her worth, along with appreciation and admiration from a bygone era. She made contributions during difficult days, with achievements etched into our yesteryears and today. Results were evident in the quality of our lives today as women, despite the difficulties that people like her faced during the Great Depression era of the 1920s and World War II. Pioneers like her stepped forth upon whose shoulders we stand today. Heroines like her are our forebearers and forever will be. We are indebted to them for the opportunities that are available to us because of them. I am ever grateful, with a sense of honor and pride, for being instrumental in improving the quality of her care. For some whom I am emotionally investing in across the different states I have worked in, I pay tribute. Our journey can only evolve with time, and may we find a cure. Until then, I will remain vigilant by doing my best. We should try to be a light in the hopelessness that Alzheimer's can sometimes unleash. It is incumbent upon us to stand for those with Alzheimer's when they cannot stand for themselves. The role of caregiver goes beyond contractual arrangements. This cruel disease is like a floodgate of the worst that could ever wash over a person's life, removing any resemblance to who they were, a plight to which all are susceptible. Here, we must give up on ourselves in a manner that makes a real difference. Caregivers should serve as a bridge, enhancing the quality of life for those in their care. Mrs. Fitzroy and so many others like her, such as my late father Clement and stepmother Beryl with Alzheimer's, keep me hopeful for a cure for this disease to be found. However, until then, caregivers must continue to advocate for research and treatment on their behalf while caring for them to the best of their ability. Proverbs 31, 8-9. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the rights of the poor and needy. Whatever state we are in, each life is dependent on another, regardless of social norms, economics, or other learned behaviors. May we all be mindful of this reality of being. Thank you for stopping by. Your thoughts are appreciated.